Welcome to Green Hills Shadow Chapter 13, the new tribe meeting the old.
Tom, why did you land on Bowser?
I had no options.
Sunday game night once more. Mario Party 1 in all its glory. After the day they had at the lake, the tiredness seemed to have melted away by the time game night happened. Tails opted to let Shadow experience it with the two humans and Sonic, content with watching. Shadow tried to find the misshapen ghost he used in Mario Kart 8, but he was told he wasn't available back then. Shadow did pick up on the graphic difference even if he doesn't understand why. Wade was Yoshi, Tom was Wario, Sonic was Mario, which left three options for the Black Hedgehog. The pink puffy Princess Peach the ape he saw before, Donkey Kong, why is he called Donkey when he's an ape? And Luigi. He opted for the Italian plumber. He likes the color green. They decided on Mario's Rainbow Castle. Level 1 star difficulty, but the punishment of getting Bowser at the end you lose 40 coins, which Shadow winced, feeling the pain of well-earned coins gone in a matter of seconds. He quickly realized why people argued over this game. It was brutal and unforgiving. Options appeared, and Bowser would randomly pick one to punish you with. He could hear Sonic chant against one particular punishment.
Not communism, not communism.
The blue hedgehog looked to be praying at this point. The finger went down the options quite fast. Shadow didn't know what that was. He couldn't see that option, but maybe it's another saying? As if he willed it, the punishment was Bowser's Revolution, and Shadow had to cover his ears from the scream Sonic let out.
Never mind, this is great.
Tails snickered and covered his mouth with his hands. Shadow was totally lost, but then he saw his coins get divided evenly as were everyone else's. His mouth opened. Why was he punished for something Tom landed on? He let out a cry of anger, making Tails snicker even more, and he shot the sheriff a mighty glare, who laughed, quite happy with the turnout due to being poor in the game. Shadow turned back to the screen and growled. He hates this Bowser. He's going to make it his mission to destroy that Koopa King in Mario Kart 8. Sonic wallowed in despair. He lost about 60-ish coins. He and Shadow had the most, with Wade following behind. So when Shadow got to the boo, seeing the misshapen ghost, he saw two options: steal coins or steal a star. Sonic evilly grinned at Tom, who didn't realize the gears in Shadow's head turn until now.
Now Shadow, I worked hard for that star. It makes it an even game if you take it from Sonic.
Dad, it makes the most sense to take it from you. After all, you made us suffer a Russian Revolution.
Wade chuckled, biting his fist just from how serious it got. Tails grinned, obviously enjoying the chaotic nature.
You have the bonus coin star. Shadow, if you take it from me, you are handing Sonic the win.
Shadow, we had the most coins. Who's caused you more pain and strife in this game? Not Bowser, but the players.
Sonic argued back. The Black Sapient had two of them trying to make their case. Shadow could be petty and hold a grudge. Has Tom been kind the entire time? Yes. Did he deserve this? Absolutely. Shadow did not like his coins being divided. He pressed the button and tried his own version of an evil cackle as Tom cried out in despair, and Sonic joining the ebony hedgehog.
Did you just hold a grudge? You're an absolute rat.
Shadow didn't really care if Wade heard him and kept cackling away. Joining Sonic's evil villain arc, Tails was absolutely loving it, just being the observer than the player for once. Tom was determined to get chance time. He's gonna show them how it's done. Tom grew up with a competitive dad, so he was trained for this.
Tom, now, let's not.
Wade chuckled at the deranged look he was seeing. He landed on chance time. The RNG gods smiled upon Tom, causing both Sonic and Wade to drop their controllers and shout for losers first. Shadow blinked as Tom lined up for a star steal.
No way.
Shadow thought. He can't believe the nerve of this man. Competitive making its appearance in the ebony hedgehog. Luckily it didn't hit him. It got Sonic, who declared war on his father for the injustice.
Sounds like it's getting hectic in here.
Maddie came over with a bowl of popcorn and Knuckles with his bag of nuts.
So, who is winning?
Knuckles asked, holding out his food for Tails, who gladly took some.
Sonic, he's got a bonus star. There's a war between Dad and Shadow and Sonic.
Tails mused, nibbling on the salted peanuts.
Oh? What has father done to earn the title of foe?
Communism.
Sonic replied, focusing on the minigame that was Mushroom Mix-Up.
You are a detriment to my life.
He scorned Wade, who pushed him off accidentally. Technically, it was Sonic's fault he jumped on Yoshi. The physics were really different back then.
That's a big word for you, Sonic. Wow, I'm proud.
Tails smiled, earning an undignified gasp from the blue sapient. And a snort from Shadow. Knuckles chuckled. Overall, Mario Party was enjoyable. Wade didn't get to hear the black sapient talk properly, but he'll take the sounds and expressions. Shadow now understood the reference that Tails made, that it causes arguments and perhaps loss of friendship. He certainly was petty over the Bowser situation. Sonic won in the end, but really Shadow wasn't keeping track. He was too busy wanting sweet competence for Bowser, even if he was a fictional being. And maybe Tom for that attempt on his star and the revolution. Shadow will show them how far he's willing to go to hold a grudge. The emerald up the attic was certainly entertained. After game night, it became quiet, each Mobian taking their shower or bath and then the brushing of their teeth. Shadow was the last one, having no idea how the shower worked, so he had to be shown since all he took were baths. He was amazed and again, killed both the human's heart seeing his expression. Maddie and Tom were currently having two options while Shadow took his shower. One, get the ceiling fixed and have Shadow out the house that day, or two. And second, get the boy a bed, a proper bed. They knew a guy who made the shapes. That's how Tails got his airplane he called the Tornado, and Knuckles with the truck, so they all match. Shadow is part of the household now, so they need a matching theme of some sort. Unless like usual he wants to be the odd one out. Both of them thought Knuckles was odd when he first came, but Shadow? Oh, he has him beat in some areas. So sketches and ideas on his bed were an ongoing issue. Shadow eventually came back out, drying his quills with the towel inside. The water felt great on his muscles, something he still needs to get used to. He made his way up the attic stairs and took a seat on the bean bag, drying his fur off still. Knuckles was in deep meditation with the Master Emerald glowing nearby. It looks like they're having a conversation, or Knuckles is attempting to listen to its intent. Tails was on his bed playing the Switch, deciding to play Little Dragon Cafe. Sonic was setting up Kingdom Hearts. They had gotten to some of the secret bosses like Unknown Figure and the Clock Tower Reaper. Sonic hated that boss the first time he ever fought it. Dear Lord, he could have broken his controller that day. He's tempted to let Shadow try, but he doesn't want his controller broken either.
Isn't it late for this?
Shadow asked the blue sapient, shaking out his own quills. He wasn't fully wet, but he wasn't fully dry either. Knuckles scoffed, eyes shut and crossed-legged still.
He will do anything for a game. He stayed up half the night playing as the warrior Link of Hyrule to save the Princess Mipha.
Mipha is best princess. Don't you lump her in with Rudo, or we are enemies.
Knuckles shook his head. Case in point. I've yet to experience this Zelda game.
Case in point.
I've yet to experience this Zelda game, but Tails said there's a lot of them.
Shadow began to brush out his fur.
It's true, though. I only know so many. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask.
Best tragedy in the series. Song of Healing. Stone Tower Temple. Need I say more? Dragon Roost Island. I can't forget that. Dude, I gotta show you the song. Oh, medley, too.
Boy, he talks so fast when he's passionate about the subject.
Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and the newest Tears of the Kingdom that just not long came out.
Tails recalled at the top of his head.
Interesting. So do you need to play them in order?
Shadow looked fascinated at the concepts given to him. Tails shook his head.
Not really, no. They are all their standalone games.
Knuckles hummed.
And yet, it's called The Legend of Zelda. You do not play as the princess. You play as the warrior of courage. Misleading title.
Shadow tilted his head in confusion.
You don't? Shouldn't it be The Legend of Link?
Sonic shrugged it off.
Who cares? All great games.
Shadow rubbed his chin and gave Tails a look.
So what one do you recommend?
Wind Waker. No contest.
Sonic replied and Tails glared at him.
He asked me.
Sonic waved him off. Knuckles opened his eye to look at the exchange.
Why do you not just have all the games sit out and let Shadow pick? That way we don't have our littlest brother put you in the grave.
Shadow grinned a little at Sonic's offended face. Tails gave what Knuckles said some thought and nodded.
That's actually a better idea. 'Cause I was due to gag my brother.
Sonic snickered. Then the blue hedgehog zipped around his game corner and got the titles, sitting them down in front of the ebony hedgehog.
I love you too, bro, alright, have at it.
Shadow took in each of the design of the games, turning the back of the boxes that were there and read the back of them. Tails still found that interesting. He could read human language and he even knows some of the different kinds: Danish, Japanese, etc., etc. Unsurprising, he picked Majora's Mask.
The mask calls to me. May I try it tomorrow? I rather get some rest after the events of today.
He mused, earning a laugh off the fox. Knuckles grunted in agreement. The echidna stretched, rolling his neck, and Shadow could see the bruising. His ears pinned back guiltily. Knuckles did not look at him, but he felt it radiating off the black sapient.
Shadow, I am quite all right. I've gone through worse.
Shadow blinked and looked at the echidna.
But that's not the point, Knuckles.
If you wish to make it up to me, then you will start training with me. That way we can prevent future accidents, or lessen them to a degree. It's manageable.
Shadow nodded solemnly. He felt guilty for doing that to him. Even if it was unintentional, he looked to his hand and flexed it. He hasn't done training in a long time. Usually he was told to use all his strength. He's never been taught how to retain it back. But he wants to. If that had been Tails, he doesn't think he could live with the guilt of hurting a child.
Then after the visit to Mobius, I will begin to train you. Sonic, you are welcome to join us. You need to build up your own strength.
No, I'm good. I don't want to be put through trees, thanks.
Can I observe? Sounds interesting.
The young kit's tail swayed up and down, pressing buttons on the switch. Knuckles gave a sound of affirmation. Knuckles rolled his neck.
Of course, you could learn from it as well. I shall teach you what I know to the best of my ability.
Just don't go killing him, Knux. Your training regimen isn't exactly beginner-friendly.
Sonic began to sort his items out for the fight and making sure he has Stopka at the ready in the shortcut menu. Knuckles glared at the blue hedgehog and Shadow rubbed his neck tiredly. The day was starting to catch up to him. The lack of sleep, the fishing at the lake, Sonic's energy, and the game night. He could really just shut his eyes to rest it off.
I'm going to shut my eyes.
He muttered tiredly, pulling himself up with great effort off the bean bag, and just flopped tiredly onto his mattress, curling up on the new covers Tom and Maddie replaced with a spare since he ripped his other ones, and pulled his blanket over him. Knuckles felt that, and so did Tails. Shadow just radiated sleepy teenager, do not disturb. He doesn't care if his fur is semi-wet, it'll dry. The yellow fox had an idea and jumped off his bed, lifting a decent-sized teddy out his teddy basket and made his way over to the black sapient. Then the fox sat down the plush on Shadow's mattress, near his arm, and the ebony hedgehog took a tired peek from his furry blanket, spotting it. It was a dark navy dragon with starry patterns all around, and he was confused.
Whenever I've had a bad dream, and if I usually don't have anyone to hug me, I hug this. This is Luna the Dreamer Dragon. You can borrow her for tonight, she smells of mint.
Shadow pursed his lip tiredly. He didn't want this thing because he shouldn't need it. He's not a child, but he could see Tails' shy expression, and it raged a war between his logic and the fox's. Tails could see he made no movement to pull Luna close to him, so his ears drooped. Shadow sighed and lifted his arm to pull the plush close to himself. He could smell the scent of what Tails said, mint.
Thank you, Tails. I'll be sure she doesn't fall off the mattress.
He muttered, earning a big smile off the kit, and he nodded.
She'll chase bad dreams away. She does the same for me. She'll do the same for you.
Shadow highly doubts it, but he nodded anyway. He does admit the smell is quite nice, and he shut his eyes, an arm around the dragon plush. A glow of green dimmed in the room, gaining Knuckles' attention. The emerald was safe and snug in its box, but like usual it finds a way to open said box and let out soft glows. The echidna still can't believe the way the emerald is trying to look after all of them, Shadow most of all. He will have to find the old tomes left behind and go to the old echidna temples to find inscriptions. The emerald was sentient in its own way. Ever since Robotnik used it, it was like it awakened after years of slumber. Or did it awaken when Sonic, Tails, and himself make that pact about protecting it? He could only guess. He felt something wash into him and he chuckled. He got up and gestured for the fox to go and rest today off. He then turned to Sonic, seeing him just stare blankly at the screen. He patted his shoulder, gaining the blue sapient's attention.
Sonic, I know you are just as tired. What is on your mind?
Sonic chewed his lip. His emerald eyes shot towards Shadow. Now the echidna understands. Shadow's scream still lingered on his mind, and the implication of the blunting of his quills. It certainly left an impact on him.
My brother, you will feel worse if you do not attempt to rest a weary mind.
He rubbed his face tiredly.
How can I? Especially after.
He groaned and shook his head, turning back to his console. Knuckles took a seat beside him.
Then I will stay up with you as long as I can. But you can't keep Sleep's warm embrace away for long.
Sonic grumbled and began pressing the buttons on the controller, fully intending to not sleep away. He doesn't need a nightmare of that either, and if he's honest, he's angry. Not at Shadow, but at the people who would even dare do such a thing. It is painful and humiliating to have your quills used against you. A part of yourself harmed and used against you.
I just don't feel like sleeping right now. And no, I don't want to talk about it.
He muttered, running a hand through his quills almost protectively. Knuckles hummed at that. The echidna looked at his grumpy blue brother.
Don't let it consume you, brother. I get it. But what is the worst that can happen? It is a nightmare. It cannot physically harm you.
It would feel real in the moment like it did for.
Sonic swallowed. Knuckles shook his head.
You are not helping yourself by worrying on what-ifs. You could end up not having a nightmare. If that was the case, then you'd never sleep. He is trying to, despite that.
Sonic sighed. He couldn't really go against Knuckles' logic, but it still didn't sound appealing. Knuckles could see that, so the echidna gestured to the console in front of them.
Then show me your battle strategy for this Reaper foe. I will do my best to understand.
He really did have the best big brother, didn't he? Sonic gave him a small smile and nodded, grateful for the distraction. Tom and Maddie eventually went up to check on the bundle of sapients. Finding everyone conked out, Sonic had fallen asleep and was put into his bed by the echidna, who in turn was in his absent from his own bed, but was on Tails. The young Kit sleeping against his big brother, and Shadow had Tails' dragon plush up against him. Both of the adults smiled and quietly went back down. The Master Emerald dimmed, perfectly content, and sent its warm energy to all of them. The day of the visit had come. Monday and Tuesday were actually pretty normal. Shadow experienced the Nintendo 3DS for the first time, and wanted to pull out his eyes when Tails showed him the 3D part. It physically hurt him in that mode, so he quickly turned it back off. He ended up binge playing Majora's Mask, absolutely taken in by the concept, and the ocarina that was sending him back into the past. Tails taught him a few tips on how to make the playthrough better, and how to active certain timetables on said game. As Sonic surmised, he was quickly taken in by the Song of Healing, so the blue hedgehog played it on his phone for him as background noise at times. The sapients did notice sadness fill his eyes at parts of the story, maybe hitting a bit too close to home once Knuckles explained that the game also had the 5 stages of grief for its symbolism. Regardless, Shadow was quite taken in by it, only pausing the game to do yoga with Knuckles and watch Sonic play Kingdom Hearts. They also noted Shadow could be a bit of a organized freak, which was surprising with how bad his fur was, but that wasn't his fault. He liked things a certain way. No creases when he made up his bed, and Tails found his the same way. Ironically, Shadow must have rearranged the kit's cover so not a crease was in sight. He also cleaned up Sonic's organized mess, and to his despair, rearranged the game collection he had, putting them in alphabetical order rather than done by either like to series. Tom and Maddie took note that Shadow was getting comfortable enough, so he started helping Knuckles with chores around the house. They cheered in celebration in secret with how things were moving along. But Tom was still worried about the sidearm he had to have for his job. He's still playing hide and seek with the black hedgehog over it. Knuckles also started making the accessory for Shadow, for his sister, to speak her life just like he does with his birth father and mother, even if he was too young to remember her. His father filled the blanks for him. Luckily for Black Sapient, the echidna had a small collection of gemstones he found in Mobius. He would use them for crafting, like hanging ornaments. So with the beads he had collected and gemstones at their disposal, both sapients began to make the beaded accessory for him, as a reminder of his sister and her life with him. With Knuckles asking which stone or bead presented in story, he used his birth father as an example, that the black onyx stone told the story of how he met the echidna's mother. So Shadow settled on a sapphire stone Knuckles had found, saying it reminds him of how strong Maria was, despite how sick she could be, an unseen illness she had, plus her gentle blue eyes. So Knuckles will teach him how to word it in song, Once they complete the beaded accessory, Tails had his backpack at the ready, with some offerings packed away.
Knuckles says you have a book?
He heard the ebony hedgehog ask. Tails paused in putting his gadgets into the bag in case he needed them and turned to him.
Yeah, it's about NASA. I was wondering if we both could go through it together? It's about space and stuff.
He hesitated the last part. He was fully committed to asking Shadow about that shuttlecraft, but he was still coming up with a way to make it a day just for him and the hedgehog, and writing down questions to ask. Shadow hummed.
I'd like that. Are we still watching that documentary about the planet, though?
Tails had introduced Shadow to human documentary presenters, and despite his dislike or rather hesitating factors with humans, he did seem to like certain ones and the documentaries they would do. Plus some had a storybook voice. Both the fox and black sapient enjoyed listening to. Tails grinned and nodded.
Yep, I think this one's called Planet Earth too.
This planet is fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
Tails quite enjoyed having someone who enjoyed watching documentaries with him. Knuckles prefers the nature ones and Sonic isn't too interested. Shadow though was like the fox, willing to learn and watch what came on the TV, and study books. His thirst for knowledge in all kinds of ways matched how the kit felt over mechanical and robotics. Knuckles called up to both of them that it was time to make the journey. So Tails zipped up his bag and made his way down the stairs with the black hedgehog in tow. Sonic was bouncing on his feet, obviously not wanting to wait any longer, but also to hide his nervousness. Which didn't seem to work. They all noticed he was nervous. His quills stuck out like pin cushions, but he wanted to do this for Knuckles. Tom had to grab him from racing around the living room. Maddie had some fake flowers ready. She didn't want to risk bringing real ones in case they were considered an invasive species. Knuckles had a warp ring at the ready and twirled it in his hand. Are we prepared? He looked to his new tribe, his new family. Tom had Ozzy's leash on him since the echidna wanted the dog included. Wade couldn't make it since the deputy was needed at the station but promised should they go again, he'll get the day off for it. And since their grandparents don't know about Shadow, it was best to just start off small. The echidna kept the emerald up the stairs. He dare not risk taking it back to Mobius and attract attention should it come out of its box. It's safer on this planet because most Mobians consider it a legend now, a story. Still not a risk he was willing to take on this special day. So he'll settle with telling his brethren the story. He tossed the warp ring and Shadow looked amazed. He's never heard or seen such a travel method before. Now he understood what Tails meant by warp. The echidna took the first step in and waited for a few moments after checking the abandoned village out, gesturing for his family to follow. Tom and Maddie took a deep breath to settle their own nerves, and moved forward with everyone else, making sure the sapients were the first ones in. Around them they could see huts of stone with twigs and bristle-like texture at the top, but most of the village had overgrown with wildlife, moss overtaking some areas, trees beginning to grow out of some of the huts. Overall the village was run down and unused. Nature had overtaken it in some places, indicting the sadness that took place. It was like a ghost town, just a ghost village. Sonic was beginning to feel like he dropped into the Fatal Frame series. Further ahead though they could see an Aztec-like shaped temple in the distance. It was a large decent size too, to see it from their location. Mobius didn't look too different from Earth. Only Maddie did take notice of some of the fauna, seeing different plant shapes she's never seen before. Something caught her eye though. A pink bird on top of one of the huts in a nest.
Knuckles? What's that?
She called out to the echidna who was about to walk forward, turned around to give her his attention. Knuckles gazed towards what she pointed at, his eyes lighting up in recognition.
That mother is a flicky, our equivalent to some of your earth birds. I forget which though.
Interesting. Sonic wanted to explore the temple, but that's not what they were there for. This island is definitely a lot bigger than he remembered as a toddler. To think the echidnas weren't that far. And yet, he doesn't remember any of this, not even the temple.
Our island was not far from yours. Ours is unique. It floats on the waves, not staying in one place according to writings.
Whoa, really?
Sonic blinked. The echidna's island wasn't on his then? So they must have taken boats? Then how did the battle move to this island? Again as if to read his thoughts.
I believe our allies saw your guardian fall and aided her, by flying her to here or using warp rings, thinking it wasn't inhabited. Some echidnas were still on this island as backup, so a battle began on this island. Some of my people used warp rings to get back quickly to regroup.
He grunted. His father described what Longclaw looked like. That is how he knows who she specifically was. According to his father, he battled Longclaw a long time ago, long before his birth. Despite being enemies, his father held some respect for her warrior spirit and skills. So it wasn't the same island at all. No wonder he didn't recognize any of it. Then that begs the question, how does a huge island manage to travel across the seas of Mobius? Knuckles gestured for them to follow him. As he made his way past some of the huts down a path that was also overrun with vegetation, Shadow kept quiet, but he was fascinated. He took in the scents around him. It wasn't too different from Green Hills, but it's still an experience for him. Absolutely fascinating. The way the huts were built, far different from the human-type house he's come to know. Ears twitching in all directions as Knuckles lead on. No one made a peep. The only sounds coming from them were breathing and stepping over twigs and other forestry parts of the floor. Ozzy was enjoying himself, tugging at Tom to move ahead, but he kept a grip on the retriever's leash. Some flickies caught sight of them though, watching the strange beings from the safety of their trees. Shadow could see a yellow and blue flicky on one tree, a green and a darker blue elsewhere, mentally noting the colors.
How far is it, Knux?
Sonic finally spoke, following at the echidna's pace. As much as he would love to zip around and look, he also doesn't feel quite comfortable in doing so. Knuckles grunted.
Brother, we still have about an hour to go.
Sonic gaped at the echidna.
1 hour? Why didn't you just warp us straight there?
Knuckles actually stopped, causing Sonic to bump into him, and the echidna gave him the side eye.
That would be disrespectful. To just warp upon the ground they fell upon. It is better to make the journey.
Quick question. Why weren't they buried closer?
He actually felt stupid for asking but needed some clarification.
I was but a little puggle. Bringing an entire tribe back one by one to bury them would not have been ideal. They would have caused a plague if I did not do it where they fell.
Yup, stupid of him. Tom slapped his head for his own insensitivity. Maddie pursed her lip and also gave him a stare of judgment.
Wait, I thought pyres were traditional?
Most of them had pyres, but they were those who preferred to be buried. I did both. Like my birth father, he wanted to be in the soil than to be on the pyre.
Tom and Maddie felt sick, and he was ready to bury himself for bringing up such a question.
Do not ask me how long it took.
Knuckles' tone was of one not in the mood and began to walk again. Shadow, though, raced over to the echidna, surprising Tom and Maddie. He walked to keep up with him, but he did not speak, as if him being near was letting the red sapient know he was there. Just like the many times Knuckles had been for him. Tom nudged both the boys while keeping Ozzy on his leash, and a silence came back to the group as the echidna trudged ahead down the forest path. Luckily, Maddie had packed water bottles in her bag. Sonic was unnaturally quiet too, but that was understandable. Tails kept close to the blue sapient and whispered a few things, if anything to keep Sonic from bolting. It was roughly the 45-50 minute mark that everyone had gotten used to with the silence, began to notice strange rocks sticking out in odd places, like one underneath a tree covered in moss, another was randomly in the path. Knuckles pushed back some of the giant ferns and kept on going ahead, revealing even more. But then Tom noticed and he froze. One of the trees had arrows, sure rotted and some broken, but they still had the dulled and withered feathers on some of them. And he swallowed.
Knuckles?
Tom hesitantly called out. Maddie picked up on his line of sight and her lips pressed into a fine line. Shadow glanced to around and he too could see the arrows, old cuts in the trees and unnatural formation of some of the rocks. But he knew immediately. The first rock they passed was when the bodies started piling up. They were essentially on the battleground, and grave sites to the echidnas and the owls. Knuckles didn't respond to his adoptive father but kept going on ahead with a hard gaze. Sonic gulped as his eyes zoomed all over, spotting even more telltale signs of the battle, as old as they were. Some trees had fallen over, huge punch-like cracks in them, old withered feathers and lots of arrows. He stopped and bent over, leaning on his knees. His breath started to heighten loudly. A loud sound pierced his ears, drowning out everyone else, his heart threatening to come out of his chest. This is where she died, wasn't it? But which one was she? Or did Knuckles burn her? He heard nothing, just the loud high-pitched frequency in his ears. His sparks began to zap away and his vision blurred. He panted loudly, emerald eyes now of light blue. Longclaw, this is where she...
Sonic. Deep breaths.
His breath hitched and in his glassy view was Tom. Sonic gulped as Tom held his hands, and Maddie was crouched down at his side. Hesitantly putting her arms around him, Sonic tried to get his breathing under control. Why now? This is supposed to be for Knuckles.
Blueberry, baby, you okay?
Maddie whispered gently. She rubbed his arm gently as she held him close, while Tom kept his hands firmly on his. Sonic choked back a whine. Both his parents firmly kept him there. How long did he?
It's only been a few minutes. It's alright, bud, take deep breaths but slowly.
Knuckles!
He's kept Tails and Shadow away, baby. He's got Ozzy too. He knows this is hard for you. You want to wait back at the village?
She muttered, kissing him on his head. Sonic swallowed and gripped his father's hands tightly.
No, I want to do this for Knuckles. I'll be okay, I just need to not think.
Tom didn't look convinced, nor did Maddie.
Buddy.
Please.
He choked out.
Don't turn me around, that's not fair on Knuckles after I told him I would.
Tom and Maddie looked to each other. So Tom lifted the blue hedgehog into his arms and Sonic gratefully held on tightly, hugging into his father, and buried his head against his shoulder so he didn't have to see anymore.
That's right, bud, just keep your face pressed against my shoulder. But Sonic, you let me know if it gets too much. Knuckles wouldn't want this on you either, remember that.
Sonic numbly nodded against Tom. Both of them walked the trail Knuckles said to go, trying to hurry it along so Sonic didn't have to look. Knuckles was waiting not too far, sitting on one of the biggest tree roots they've seen yet. It acted like archway along the path for them to go under. He gave his parents a look of concern but didn't say anything. Shadow was holding Ozzy's leash, also glancing at the blue sapient with concern but also understanding. Tails raced over and Maddie scooped him up into her arms. No one said anything but Tom gestured for the echidna to move on, which he did, jumping off the roots and walked along quicker. Sonic kept his face against Tom's shoulder, not willing to look at any more right now. The echidna was angry at himself. He should have just warped. He should have thought about how the hedgehog would have felt. Shadow could see the stormy thoughts across his face, and he pulled Ozzy along as quick as he could, so he could keep up with the red sapient. And then they came to a more open-fielded area, with a huge boulder in the middle of it, with tree roots and some unnatural shapes around the field, and white flowers spread across, blowing gently in the wind. Shadow recognized it, the boulder. It was from Knuckles' tale about his father. They've arrived.
We are here.
Knuckles gruffly called out, gaining Tails and Sonic's attention. He kneeled down on his knees in front of the boulder, with a smaller rock in front of it, with white lily-shaped looking flowers, with blue pattern lines on it growing at the sides of it. He run his hand across the grave-shaped rock of his birth father.
Sava, father, I have brought you my new tribe just as I once promised you I'd find. Happy name day.
Tom and Maddie came up closer, with both of them letting down the boys gently.
May I?
Maddie held out the fake flowers she brought and he nodded. She laid them down in front, kneeling down next to her eldest, and Tom also went onto his knees on the other side. Sonic swallowed and kept a gaze upon the grave, not willing to look around anymore, but the flowers were nice to look at too. Tails glanced around the area with curiosity, seeing the old battle scars this place held. It had been a long time, but some of nature kept the reminder of it. Ozzy began to sniff around. Shadow kept the leash tight on his hand though. He didn't want the retriever to just wander off. The echidna had both of his adoptive parents have their arms around him, cradling them with an arm each, their heads against the red sapient's own. Sonic took a deep breath, sitting at Tom's side as Tails took to Maddie's. The father of these sapients reached out and pulled Shadow closer to the little huddle they had going, with Ozzy laying himself on the flowers. The echidna did not have tears down his face, but his gaze hardened.
This is my new tribe. Before I tell your story to them, I wish for you to first know them by name.
Knuckles spoke, reaching into his dreadlocks and pulling out his birth father's warrior beads. His finger and thumb went on one of the stones. The family members looked at each other in wonder, how to introduce themselves. Knuckles glanced, realizing they didn't know how to begin with introductions, and he let out a soft chuckle.
This human woman is now my mother, Maddie Wachowski and her husband, my father, Thomas Wachowski.
Hello,
Igneous.
Igneous. Happy name day.
Maddie nodded and smiled softly. Tom had a small smile plastered on his face as well. Some Mobian names were on the nose, weren't they?
Happy name day.
He repeated, keeping his head against the echidnas just like Maddie did.
And these two are my brothers. The blue one is Sonic, and the yellow one is Tails.
Knuckles nodded at his two brothers. Tails shyly hugged one of his tails.
Hello, Mr. Elder Knuckles. It's nice to meet you.
Sonic swallowed at the emotions that threatened to come out.
Savo, Knuckles talked to me about you.
He repeated the word the echidna had used and he lit up at the attempt.
And this is my sworn brother, our newest, Shadow.
He gestured to the black sapient who blinked and then he blushed at the attention but gave the grave a nod. His red ruby eyes looking it up and down, like he was seeing the echidna's birth father, and gave him the respect.
Kotakni, Igneous.
He muttered, placing his fist over his chest in greeting. Despite not having a physical form, he wanted to give him the greeting Knuckles taught him. If only he knew about. If Maria had something like this and the professor. How to inquire about it, he'll never know because if he does then that'll alert you and the director. And he doesn't want that danger on these people, not again. He can't let that happen, he can't be the reason again.
And how could I forget our gladiator beast, Ozzy? He is a fine one.
The retriever's ears went up at his name being mentioned. Tom and Maddie knew otherwise though. He isn't a gladiator dog at all. Knuckles then cleared his throat and began to sing in like a hymn. His mother tongue naturally coming out, as he sung his father's life, that he remembers his tales. That the way his father showed him how. His victories, his love. And the last, his death. The family obviously did not know what he was saying, with only Tails knowing a few words here or there. It was Shadow who likely knew the most but kept silent, not wanting to translate while Knuckles sang, and interrupt such an emotional time for him. He was strong about it but he knows it's still a tough thing to do considering. They all knew Shadow could sing but hearing Knuckles sing in another language was something else. It was like how Sonic felt with Japanese singers but somewhat different of course. Ozzy was content with just keeping his head down. It came to an end with Knuckles rubbing his thumb on the last one, taking a deep breath.
I hope you and Mother are doing well in the sky.
The echidna looked up, gazing at said sky. He felt Maddie and Tom hug him closer and he let shown a small smile.
Thank you for this, Knuckles. It's such an honor to meet a part of your history, as sad as it is.
But to her surprise, Knuckles let out a small chuckle.
He was a warrior. They all were. They lived and died as warriors. It can be sad at times like now, but I look back on it with embrace. You see, he lived this experimental life. We all do ... and his time had come. It will eventually be the same for me and many others. That's what makes life all the more enjoyable. Death brings new life. And new life has to stumble about to find itself, before eventually embracing death in some stage.
Definitely a philosophical way to look at it. Tom ruffled his head, gently giving him a small grin. Tails sat his backpack down and lifted out offerings he had at the ready, an apple, and a bag of soil at Knuckles' request, which earned some confusion as to why. Knuckles lifted the bag, opening it and sprinkled some upon the grave and ground.
It is just earth. It will not contaminate this soil. I have checked. I am giving my father a piece of Green Hill's wonderful soil and nature.
Shadow tilted his head.
Why the apple?
I've read that if you leave an offering of food they can take it to the afterlife. I just wanted to give him an apple from the planet we stay on now.
Tails nodded. Incredibly smart but still a child. Knuckles thanked him for the offering, sitting it down on the grave, fully knowing the wildlife will eventually claim it. The thought still counts though. Sonic leaned over.
How does the beads count as retelling his victories?
It is like a hidden language, in our mother tongue, almost engraved. It is like how people use rope or Morse code.
Tails looked fascinated.
So unless you were taught it really didn't mean much? It's kinda neat.
So his warrior beads are mostly his victories?
Of sorts, yes, with only an odd few added in between, that he wanted to add. I added the final, his death. Upon this land I found a rock that looked like clear glass, so I added it onto his beads. marking his death and where it happened.
Knuckles clipped the beads back onto his dreadlocks. Shadow petted the golden retriever, listening to the red sapient. He had started an accessory for Maria. Even if he didn't fully know Echidna tongue, he would know the story himself because he's telling it. And it would give him a sort of memorial of her that he never got before. So he understands what Knuckles is trying to get across. It is like when someone makes anything, it tells a hidden tale. So with the beads and stones and gemstones, it's the same thing for Knuckles and his people. Sonic glanced around them, taking in the sight of old gravestones sticking out, the flowers that seemed to sweep against the wind softly like morning flowers. It was quiet apart from them and the sounds around like the flickies.
You want to tell us more about him? In English so we can understand.
The Echidna paused and gave Sonic a look. Sonic curled up against Ozzy, all the members huddled together near the grave. He was still completely uncomfortable, but this meant a lot to his brother. So he'll show the interest, despite the painful reminder of how own guardian meeting a fate she shouldn't have met.
If that is what you wish. My father was a brilliant storyteller. Often would tell me how he met my mother. How she was a warrior that had him on his back, would twist another suitor's twist if they dared to try show off to her.
And the family sat there, enjoying the tales Knuckles spoke about and visualizing the life he had as a young puggle with his birth parents and tribe, before tragedy struck him and Sonic. Tails leaned into his mom, who gladly accepted. Knuckles spoke about his victories, his life and his love for his child. He was a mountain that could not move, especially when it came to himself. And then the red sapient turned it around, telling the grave of how his life with his new tribe was. The bonding, the antics, the love they all share now. He spoke of how they gained the thing they sought a long time ago, not willing to say its full name should anyone be nearby, just being extra cautious. But his father will know what he has meant. Shadow was the quietest out them all. He didn't ask too much, but he appeared to be listening, taking in every word. Maddie pulled the Echidna into her arms, his back against her chest and head under the woman's chin, embracing her oldest and showing affection. That is one thing the black sapient noticed more and more. How much affection and love Tom and Maddie willingly gave to the three sapients, and extended something similar to Shadow. They were a lot like Maria. After an hour of gallant tales from Knuckles, the Echidna decided it was time to make the journey back home, and thanked them all for making the effort to meet his father, his tribe. As the family began to put away things in their backpacks, Knuckles patted the blue sapient's shoulder, gaining his attention.
Come, brother. There is one more stop before we make the journey home.
Knuckles stated and motioned his family to follow as he walked on ahead on the left side of the field. Tom held out his hand for Sonic to take and he took it, holding Tails in his other one. Shadow kept Ozzy's leash in his hand and followed along, sticking near Maddie, who smiled at the black sapient. Everyone took in the landscape before them. Despite knowing it was practically a gravesite for many, it held a bittersweet, tragic and mourning beauty to it. Knuckles pushed back some more of the ferns and after roughly 15 to 18 minutes, he stopped at another odd rock formation and turned to the blue hedgehog with a look of expectation. Sonic looked lost, gazing between the lonely middle rock and his older brother. Knuckles pursed his lip, not knowing how to say what he had done in case the blue sapient takes it wrong. But Shadow understood immediately.
Knuckles? Is this?
He looked to the Echidna, remembering what he said about Sonic's guardian. He grunted in affirmation to him, obviously earning a few confused looks off the rest of the family.
It is the owl. Longclaw.
Sonic's eyes dramatically widened and he gasped. He zipped over to the rock and swallowed hard.
How do you know this is her? There's rocks everywhere.
Because I marked it with a symbol. Hers has a feather indicating she was an owl. But I gave her two, because I knew she was a mother. I tried, Sonic. Despite being enemies, I tried to honor her spirit. I tried to make sure she had something.
Sonic couldn't believe Knuckles had actually done a thing, especially with her being an enemy of his. But his honor code was too strong to let her wilt away, let her fade like she never existed. Not only did he do it for his tribe, he did it for the owls who fought with her that day. Not all could be buried, a lot had to be burned on pyres. He still laid stones upon where they fell, but they were still some Knuckles chose to bury and Longclaw was one of them. Sonic fell to his knees, startling his adoptive parents, who quickly made their way over to the blue sapient as he hugged the grave for dear life and sobbed the tears he had as a child. Grateful that he knows there is somewhere he can come see her and tell her about his life. Grateful to Knuckles, as young as he was, to do such a thing. He had the best older brother and no one could tell him otherwise. And they both huddled against the weeping hedgehog, who couldn't control the tears and the gasping of sound coming from him. He felt them wrap themselves up against him and spoke to him, trying to comfort him. Tails rubbed his eyes. Hearing his goofy older brother sob his heartache. It wasn't a bad thing, but it still wasn't something nice to listen to. But then he felt an arm go around him. Thinking it was Knuckles, the kit leaned into the person's touch and he sniffed. But he saw a black arm instead of red and his eyes widened. It was Shadow that was trying to comfort him. The way he tensed at the contact but still made no effort to untangle from his own gesture was a surprise. The echidna made his way over to the two sapients and Ozzy, grateful the young kit had someone to be comforted by.
It is all right, little brother. These tears have needed to come,
Knuckles muttered, reaching out and grasping his spare hand. Tails nodded, pulling away from Shadow to hug his big brother, who gladly took it. All of them listening to the sobs of the blue hedgehog, who clung to his parents, but let him have the comfort he needed from them. Knuckles only hoped, with this offering and extending of the branch, Sonic will take his words seriously. Their parents' war was not their own. It was time to move on and look forward. Accept the now and let them rest. Shadow looked to the echidna and pursed his lip.
Does this island of yours have a name?
I believe my father called it Angel Island, though I am quite unsure why it is such a name.
An island that's not tethered to anything. It floats on the waves like on a whim, huh? Curious, Mobius is just as fascinating as Earth. They heard Sonic introduce Longclaw to his adoptive parents, though he was in a mess trying to not choke. And then turned his attention to the four further back and motioned for them all to come. She has to meet his brothers, the newest addition, and Ozzy. And that's what they did. They made their way to the emotional blue hedgehog, who introduced her to them. And he hoped inside himself that she liked them. Sonic will have to thank Knuckles for this, but first, time to tell her all about each member.